This is Al Dackman Barry, and you are watching a RAWCAR episode. So we're outside, and it may be a chilly October day. We're about to heat it up with two muscle cars. Some people might not call these muscle cars, but if you think about the fact that they're mid-sized cars, big engines, and they're cheap, then they follow the definition of back in the day. Here we have 2014 Chevy Camaro 2LS. Here, brand spanking new Challenger GT all-wheel drive with all the options. Now, obviously this one was $19,000 brand new. This was $33,000 after rebates, so still not an expensive car. So, what I want to do, unlike every other channel that's going to do crazy stuff, expensive stuff, I want to see, are these livable cars? Can you have fun with them, and can you go to shopping with them? Alright? So, buckle up, because we're going to have some fun now. What, spreadsheets aren't fun? Well, I love them. So these are the categories each car will be graded on, from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. At the end, we'll tally it all up. So, who will win, the new Challenger or the older Camaro? Now, I'm not going to go into all the stuff you already know, already heard. Obviously, this is a 5th gen Camaro after the updates. So the design is a little bit polarizing, but I personally love it. It moves away from the retro. Well, unless you count the 3rd generation, I guess I'm showing my age, but it takes a lot of cues from the 3rd gen, which was my favorite Camaro. Now, my favorite feature are the rear quarter panels, because they're so just muscular and beefy, but that exhaust, the way they blended it into the design, I think was gorgeous. Don't laugh though, I kind of like those yellow bumper protectors. They're not meant to stay there, and some people have commented on the damage, but because of my driveway, I think they're better where they are. Now, the rest of the car, it's virtually unchanged from previous generations. In fact, it's been going on for a while, but that's a good thing. This is a good looking car in that traditional American kind of look. I do miss the old style taillights that was one bar across from left to right, but these are nice too. Obviously this car is a blacktop package, so it has all the goodies on the outside and the inside, like the blacked out trim pieces and so on. So adding that with the granite and these new wheels, the color they come in, I think this thing just looks so mean, so aggressive. So why don't you comment below, which one do you like most? Now for the engine sound, you have to keep in mind that these are V6s, so they're not going to sound like this. Camaro's interior design is a bit surpassed by newer average cars, but it aged well. As far as features, well, it has an MP3 CD player, which I love, but it's well behind the times. It doesn't even have full power seats or folding mirrors. Personally, I see that as fewer things to go bad, but that brings me to quality. Mechanically, the Camaro hasn't had any issues at all in 25,000 miles, but there is some fading on the door panel armrest, and the plastic trim pieces on the roof did come apart. Oh, the trunk. As a bachelor, you can absolutely live with it. Anything else is tough, but not impossible. The trunk is actually big, but with the front seats all the way back, the folding rear seats are useless. The trunk opening is also tiny, so much so that if you get a flat tire, you cannot get that flat wheel into the trunk unless the tire is completely deflated. The Challenger interior is really nice, in a classic American car kind of way. The layout is well thought out and just overall smart. The list of features is impressive. I will say that this has more goodies than a fully loaded Cadillac ATS. Initially, I gave this a full score because many of the controls also have button redundancy, so you don't have to fiddle around with the silly touchscreen. But lacking the seat adjustment memory does warrant half a point down. Now, quality is hard to tell since this is a brand new car, but things feel very well assembled and the materials are nice to the touch. Okay, now the trunk. It's big. No other way to put it. This is bigger than most cars out there. Sure, it's not as big as a Crown Vic trunk, but you can fit a few golf clubs. Getting in and out is fairly easy too, especially since you have those big doors, but you have to watch out when you're parked close to something because that big door can also become a bit of a hindrance. But if somebody disabled like myself can get in, you should be fine. Same for the Challenger, but being that it's taller, it's easier to get into. Next category is comfort, which is the seat itself, how comfortable you are sitting in the car as the driver, as well as overall the car, how it handles potholes and rough roads and, rough tires and etc. Now, both cars got the same score, however, for different reasons. The Camaro is very comfortable sitting in it, and with my bad back, that's incredibly important, so keep that in mind. The seat can go all the way down, all the way back, and it's actually bigger than my Crown Vic. The Challenger is very smooth. It's a big American car. The Camaro passenger seat is pretty much the same, but the Challenger lacks the same adjustments as the driver's seat, so it's a little less comfy. The back seats are torture for both, with the Challenger being a little better. Now, this is a score for noises you don't want to hear. The Camaro's pretty quiet on the inside, but every now and again you do hear like this exhaust rattle, which brings it down to its score. Remarkably quiet, but there's only one sound, and that's coming from the brake calipers when you release. It's not that big a deal though. If you stuck around this long, now you get to see the go fast.
traction control off, and if you press for 10 seconds, you can turn off traction and stability track. Just bear in mind that it does stay on a little bit. It's not like an old school car. Remember, don't try this at home.
Camaro is significantly faster, but in the case for both cars, still, acceleration is enough to throw you back into your seat and have loads of fun. Just keep in mind, there are cars that are going to be faster, particularly the V8s. Now, handling is where these cars really shine. Both of them grip the road really well, like the serpentine style roads, the road courses, and things like that. However, the Camaro suffers from its traction control, the fact that you cannot turn it off. It is light enough and powerful enough to break traction, but then that rev control almost puts you into a counter spin, as you can see. The Challenger doesn't have that problem because the all-wheel drive system is really good, but it also doesn't have the near 50-50 weight balance that the Camaro does. But I cannot wait to do an update review with this car in the snow. Now, the maintenance score is a little bit tricky because both these cars are relatively easy to work on compared to a Mercedes, BMW, or pretty much any average car. However, they're not easy to work on when you compare them to the old school muscle cars. So, they do get lower marks on that, with the Camaro being just a little bit, basically 1 point higher, only because it is the simpler of the two, has fewer gadgets, fewer gizmos. Even oil changes are simple because of just a basic paper filter, which, if need be, 20 years down the road, you can just make them. Now, if you're a newer driver, this is the score you want to pay attention to, the newbie score. The Camaro is a little difficult backing up, but once you get used to it, it's perfectly fine. Just keep in mind it has some nasty blind spots in the front by the mirrors. The Challenger doesn't have these problems. In fact, it's remarkably easy to drive. Its only downfall is the size. It is by today's standards, a large car, although back in the day it wasn't. So just keep that in mind. You know, you're a little wider and longer than most. Now, the cool now, it's pretty obvious what it means, and both of them are very cool. Even mine, after 5 years, it's still up there. But the wow factor, the Camaro has a little bit more just because of the body style and the wild shape of it. Will these cars become future classics? That's tough. I used to say no, but judging by some of the 90s cars, I'm starting to think yes. Even some of these V6 models, if there's something about them, even color, I think yes. Now, obviously not all the way up to a full score, but I think both of them deserve a solid 7. Now let's talk about price. Now, the new Camaros cannot compare with this 14, where it was 19,000, brand spanking new. But you can still get a 5th gen in good shape, around 10 grand. Mine is more along the lines of a $20,000 car because of the low mileage and how I maintain it. And if you want to go brand new, you can still get even a cheaper model. It doesn't have to be a full option car. They go, I think, like starting around low 30s. So depending on your budget, there's always something when it comes to the newer generation muscle cars. And now the moment of truth. Racking up the scores. See which one did better. The Challenger got 100 points even. The Camaro got 91.5. Now, if you can see in the graph here, it's obvious that these cars have their strengths and weaknesses. The Camaro is obviously faster and overall a better sports car. But the Challenger is the more comfortable car, and it's more livable, really. The bottom line is that both of these cars offer very little compromise when it comes to day-to-day, and they're still a whole lot of fun. So really, it comes down to preference. Which one do you like most, and what are the features that you value the most? So I hope you like this kind of review. Honestly, I'm not still going to work it out. We have plenty of other cars to review because my purpose is to get you guys, not to promote a brand new car or whatever, but showing you it's possible to get something that's cheap, even if you don't know how to work on cars. Obviously, there's old beaters that are so much fun. You can have them for anywhere from $1,000. So this is a DAC Dynasty video, and we cannot have it end without at least showing Olivia once. She has a surprise for you for Halloween, so stick around because this season is going to be really exciting, if not stressful. So this is Al Dakman Barry, and I hope you have a great ride. Some people might not call it blah, blah, blah.
No.
Some people might